Hey, Kevin, Jack, Catherine. Jack, how was your trip?
It was good, but I came back with a cold.
Oh,
So I was down for a few days after I came back.
well, at least it wasn't COVID, right?
No, it wasn't.
Good. Well, hopefully you're feeling better, yes?
Yeah.
Good. All right, let's do a little silk reeling. All right. Head turns. All right, and good. Hold on just a second, guys. I gotta adjust the light here. Yeah, that's better. Okay, head rolls. Let's do three in each direction and then stop. And down to center and reverse. And down to center and stop. Jack, in one of the previous classes, we went over what is involved with the head rolls. They look so simple. Were you here for that?
No.
I don't think you were. Okay, so Catherine's going to teach you what the important salient points are for the head rolls. Okay, Catherine, go.
Oh, I had only one class on that. I'm definitely not mastering it.
Well, you're ahead of Jack, right? So go ahead and
Slightly.
give it a try. So when we did the head rolls, didn't we pretty much spend the whole hour on that?
No,
Yes, I think we did.
I don't think so. This is not my recollection.
I think she's just trying to get out of having to do a whole hour. Yeah, listen, just pick two or three points that you remember from that time and go over them and teach Jack. All right.
Well, yeah,
What's the
I'm
first thing you remember?
that the whole body is working in this movement.
Excellent.
It's
Excellent.
not it's not only your head.
All right.
Um,
So suppose you're teaching a new student, somebody like Jack, all right, who's a quote unquote new student, and you want to illustrate for them what do you mean the whole body? What do you have to have them do in order to engage their whole body?
so Jack, I think you should, by whole body, I mean that you should start from your foot and go up, and then on the other side to your other foot. It's like a circle, but a circle that involves your whole body, not only your head. Well, this is not clear at all, but since Jack is not a real beginner, I'm sure he will pick up on it.
All right, well, illustrate for him what's the wrong way to do it.
So the wrong way of doing it is this. No, no, no.
Good, good. So what's the right way to do it?
So you should feel the movement starting from, for example, your left foot, and then the energy is coming up. Well, suddenly I'm not sure anymore. But when I do it, let's start this way. When I do it, I feel from my left foot coming up into my shoulders, in my neck, then going down here on my right foot, and then, well, it's something like that. It's really not good. Let's just delete everything. In fact, I'm just realizing that it's really hard to teach because I feel things, but I'm not sure that I know how to explain them.
You know, guys, I'm having you, and I'm going to continue to have each of you teach each other after we do this for exactly those realizations. As you realize, oh my God, it's hard to do it and remember all the things. It's even harder to teach it to somebody because you have to translate it from a personal experience to words, and they have to be effective, and you have to be able to do the demonstration in order to see the light go on in your students' eyes. And they go, oh, and then they
I
get it.
definitely know that the light is not in Jack's eyes right now.
No, I thought what you said was a good beginning. That's exactly right. You point. A really effective way to teach something physical is to show them the wrong way, because the wrong way is very, very common. So you watch people do this exercise, and you will see a lot of people doing stuff like this. The thing that's wrong with that, in a certain way, there's nothing wrong with that. It's fine to do it that way. It's just not self-grilling, right? Because when you only are moving your neck like this, what it means is you're isolating that joint from the rest of the body.
Yes.
And silk reeling is not about isolating anything, it's about integrating things. So if you want to integrate it, then if you're going to move your head, you have to use your whole body to do it. One way to think about it is you're going to use your Dan Chen. Think about it maybe is the wrong term.
Yeah, when you start, it's in your lower back, and when you're up, it's definitely here.
Okay, now Catherine's getting into another level. So the first thing that you might talk about when you teach any exercise is the whole body aspect of it. And there's sort of two things that you want to talk about. One is the Danchen, because all movement in Tai Chi and Qigong is initiated in the Danchen. It's actually initiated in the mind. But the mind and the Danchen are just two sides to one coin. All right? So if I'm going to move my head, I'm going to do it from here. Right? The other thing you have to talk about is the bottom of your feet, because we are grounded animals, and you need to engage. When you're going to move your head, you need to engage the bottom of your feet. So you can think of the bottom of the feet as the bottom of the dantian. Right? And the top of the dantian is the top of your head. That's one way to think about it. Now you notice I'm just sort of doing this naturally. I didn't mean to do this with my hands, but one of the primary exercises in all forms of Qigong is just to do this. You're just circling the dantian. Well, look how close that is to circling your head and neck. So one way to teach people, use your whole body, is engage your hands and roll your own dantian. And let that then, in reverse. Now, Catherine was just starting to get into the next level of talking about this. And Catherine, if you remember back to our discussion about this, our original discussion, I was not this organized. I sort of went here and went there, and eventually you got it all together. That's much more realistic with Tai Chi. If you're a student in China, for instance, and you are in a traditional Tai Chi class, not at a university or someplace like that, but just a traditional class out in the park, right? And you're working with Master Feng, say, right? How you get it is just to keep going to the classes, because they're not going to present. There's kind of a sequence, but the truth is the sequence always gets broken up. And so the only way to get it is just keep going, and you just keep getting things from the teacher, and then you put them together yourself. It's the only way to do it. I can't tell you, I don't think I've ever mentioned this, but we would start a form with Master Zhang all the time. So I can remember we started the saber form probably 4 times, and we never finished it. We finally finished it on the 4th time. He would go along, and we would get to it's a 48 move form. We would get to maybe move 20, and then he would quit. And by saying quit, I mean we would quit for a couple of years. And none of us really understood why. I'm sure now, looking back, it was because he realized the group was not ready. It was just not ready for this level of instruction. So he would say, well, okay, it was a nice try. We'll come back to it later. So 2 or 3 years later, we try again. And it took about 10 years until we finally got the whole thing. And I'm sure it was because of us, although we never said anything. Okay, so Catherine, now we've identified the dantian, the back of the dantian being the Mingmen, and the Tanzhong acupuncture point, right? So what does that have to do with head rolls?
You put your mind in your lower back when you start here, your head down.
Yeah.
But when your head is here, your mind has to come up here, and you have to open here. And even if you do it really well, I don't, but if you do it really well, even your hand are going to slightly open, because everything is opening. And then closing again. Closing in your lower back. That I think I explain well.
Yes, good, good. Okay, now demonstrate it. And when you demonstrate something, you have to exaggerate it a little bit, right? Okay. When I do this just for myself, it's it's there, but it's very slight. But when you demonstrate it, you have to be really big so that everyone can see it.
Okay. Did you see, Jack?
That was very good. Now, if we were truly teaching this class, this is actually a really good exercise for folks, particularly if they have shoulder or neck issues, and a lot of people do. So one thing that you might point out once you've got that basic idea down is, well, what are you really doing when you open and then you close? So now you pay some attention. Oh, well, the arm is actually turning on its own axis like this. All right, that's part of the spiral power. But what does that do with the upper chest bones and muscles? You're going to open your chest. You're going to roll your shoulders back and open your chest.
And therefore closing your lower back.
Yes. Excellent.
Until you smooth that out, it feels really wonky because you get these little tight areas that you got to roll through, and it just kind of throws your rhythm off and everything.
Yeah, well, finding those wonky places is actually a big part of Qigong. If you're thinking of Qigong as medicinal, because those wonky places, if I understand what you're saying, I think of my wonky places, they're places where things are sticking. Right? That's not, you know, it's sort of like the Tin Man in the Wizard of Oz. I need some oil in there, right? I need to oil that. And that's what happens with this exercise with the shoulders. And I think when people see that, they see you do that, demonstrate that, and they try it, it's easy for them to then realize, oh, well, we're calling this a head roll, but that's just a name, right? I think I said back then we could call it George or Bob. It wouldn't matter. It's just a name. It's really the whole body that's moving. Shoulders, elbows, wrists, right? Your upper spine is flexing forward and then it flexes backward. And reverse.
Toes, your ankles, your knees, etc.
Well, I haven't even mentioned those yet, right? Yeah, but as long as Kevin mentioned that, so Catherine, go on and talk about also about the quad and about the legs.
About the quad and about the legs. So when you start from the left, you are sinking in your left quad.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you go to the right side, you are sinking. I mean, it's difficult for me. Sinking into your right quad.
Your English is very, very good.
And also, you really, if you do it well, I do it well maybe once every 100 times, but when I do it well, I really feel actually the spiral coming from my foot into my ankle, into my leg. I mean, like something coming up. It's it's a good feeling. It's too bad that I don't feel it very often, but
Well, the fact that you feel it even once out of 100 is a triumph because a lot of people just don't feel it at all. So the fact that you get a little clue about that's a thread, and you just keep following that thread until you feel it all the time. This is this is a very simple movement in the sequencing, but the fact that it's simple is actually good because when you start looking at it, it's actually very complicated. So if you start simple, it makes it a little easier to get at this. But think about, right? The whole body is moving. Once you get a feel for that and it starts to happen for you, then you can take this exact same feeling into your Tai Chi and into all your other silk reeling and all your other Qigong. The truth is, for Tai Chi, once you learn silk reeling, you might as well do silk reeling in every episode, right? Every modality, rather. Right? Even if you're doing things that ostensibly don't have silk reeling in them, you can add it in. Right? So, for instance, when we do this, right? Watch. Did you see the big S curve? I'm not actually making that happen. It's just happening. Why is it happening? Because I'm coming up on the right leg, and by the time you get up to the Tanjong, you're kind of in the middle, and then you shift to the left, and then you shift back to the right. It just happens naturally. Well, what are you doing? You're spiraling, 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 right? And that's just a nice stretch. You get more out of that than if you just do this,
mm.
right? It's just, yeah, Kevin.
For me, the most important part is to take this into everyday life.
Yeah,
So, like if
yes,
I'm reaching up into a cabinet or if I'm doing something, I try to do it with silk reeling for the simple reason it's a lot easier once to do.
yeah. And as you said the other day, in China, what Kevin is talking about is called stealing practice. You steal a little, you reach up high into a cabinet for a cup or something. You're stealing a little practice if you do it consciously, right? And try to explore a little silk reeling while you do that. In fact, you can do a little silk reeling on everything you do. That's the basic idea, right? Catherine, is there anything else you can think of that we should cover?
I think I reached my
Well,
maximum here.
that was very good. That was very good. And I'll tell you, to become a teacher is as hard as to learn Tai Chi and Qigong in the first place. So, like, that's actually, in my opinion, rather difficult. Right? To learn to be a teacher of it is like to be as difficult all over again. And there's only one way to get good at it, and that's to practice it. You just have to practice, practice, practice. So, Catherine, to wrap this up, the teaching part of this, what did you learn about teaching today? Teaching this modality?
Um, I learned that even if it was, I thought that I understood the movement when I do it, in fact, putting words on it to explain it was another something totally different. And
Yeah.
and especially, I have to say, especially in English, because words were coming in French, but my English suddenly was like totally broken. And but anyway, it's not a question of language. I think it's more a question of understanding it in a way that you can give it to someone else.
Exactly. And you did very well with the language. You did just fine. All right? Sometimes when I'm teaching, I have to search for language. It's like, yeah, I don't have any words for this. All right? So you have to make something up. All right, let's go on to another move. So this is a move, Jack. I can't remember whether you were here for this or not, but this is a move that's usually done in push hands practice, and what you do is this, and your partner who's facing you does the same thing with their other arm. So your arms pop. Now it's not a competitive thing. It's an exercise. So you're not trying to leave each other with big bruises. You're just touch, touch, touch. Okay, once you get that idea, right? Touch, touch, touch. Then you got to find the spirals inside. And I like to do this particular exercise because it's one of the simplest, most powerful body spirals. Now, once you get the basics down, if you were really doing this with someone, it would look more like this. When I'm teaching it to you guys, I'm exaggerating the spiral so that you can see it. Right? Wind up. Right? You're turning your body on its own axis. Right? And then turning the axis back the other way. Again, right? You're turning the axis of the body to the right and sinking into the right quad, and then coming up into the tangent. Sink into the left quad. Come up into the tangent. Sink in the right quad. Come up to the tangent. Sink in the left tangent. Right tangent. Left tangent. Right tangent. This particular motion is used all the time in Tai Chi. So if you were doing one of the three cloud hands patterns, it's essentially the same thing. All right? Instead of forward, now it's to the sides. So when you're doing cloud hands, you're delivering the strike to those 2 points here, out here. The exercise we're doing, the points are directly out in front of my shoulders. So I'm doing one to the left shoulder, one to the right shoulder. When you're doing cloud hands, but it's actually the same motion. Kevin, is that obvious?
Yeah, I think watching Catherine and Jack, it's your hands don't go above your eyes. You keep it within the quadrant. You don't go way out to the side. And the one's forward and one is just to the shoulders, basically.
Yeah, so what Kevin was saying is whenever you make a movement in Tai Chi or Qigong, or in Tai Chi especially, it's not a good idea to do this. Because now you can't see. So you come right under your nose. Now when you're doing cloud hands, you're let me adjust the camera here. So the big fat stripe is 180 degrees. But we don't really, or very rarely work at 180 degrees. Because when you work like that, you're throwing yourself kind of backwards. All right? So instead, you work on these smaller diagonals, all right, coming out at roughly 45 degrees. Even when you're doing cloud hands, it might look like you're going out at 180 degrees, but you don't. You actually only go out to about 45 degrees on each side. So you could say you're playing within a big ball, and that ball will fit inside this 90-degree quadrant here. So a way to talk about it is you've got 4 quadrants. The forward quadrant, the reverse quadrant, the left quadrant, right, the right quadrant. You're going to be working in the forward quadrant. Sometimes in some of the moves, yes, you sort of go out a little wider, but mostly not. So this movement here is not only in the forward quadrant, it's really a forward move. You're not going clear out to the side. You're actually going out to in this case to the left shoulder. In this case to the right shoulder, right? So it's almost just straightforward.
It's very hard to see this on 2 dimensions, which is why I keep calling attention to it. So you guys realize it is 3 dimensional.
Yeah, it is 3-dimensional. You can think of these as blocks. Block. 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 Now the truth is, in action, you are not going to have time to do it like that. All right? You don't have time to go down and wind up, and now I come out here. It's all over by then. You're on the ground, right? So your block has to be really fast, which means you have to practice this a lot so that your body knows what to do, and it does it instantly, and you won't even see it from the outside. All right? You don't see me sinking here, do you? But when you practice, yeah, you should sink. Um, if you do it enough, over the years, you will develop a lot of facility with it and a lot of efficiency. So in real life, maybe you block like that, you don't see this big sink, but you've been doing it so long that you do it anyway. It's not so much your physical body sinking as your energy body. And your energy body is going to follow your mind. So if you've never done this before, you're probably just not going to have anything there at all because you don't know there should be anything there at all. If you've practiced it a lot, your mind, and it'll be by that time, by the time you've done this 10,000 times, it'll be your unconscious mind that does it. You don't have to think about it anymore. All right? It's the mind just goes down to that foot and through that qua, and you sink in that qua. You won't even see it on the outside, but the energy body is sinking. All right? It is sinking. Boom, out the other side. Does this make sense? And this is a metaphor for all of Tai Chi, because Tai Chi is a martial art, and Tai Chi as a practice are two different things. The practice is in service to the martial art, or it's in service to your self-development and your Qigong. All of it's good, all right? But they are different things. People make the mistake of thinking Tai Chi as a practice is what you do if you were to fight with Tai Chi. That's just not true. All right? You would use your Tai Chi, but it's on a completely different plane. And to do that, you have to go through 5 levels of push hands, 5 levels of sparring, and then into fighting, right? And you should do that when you're about 18 years old. Okay, so all that aside, what you really want to get, I love this exercise, it's so simple, is the spiral. All the way from the bottom of the foot, continuously through the body to the tips of the fingers. Now I notice Jack is doing something correct, just naturally. When you block like this, you don't want to block with the side of the arms, if you can help it. Because if you go side to side arms, you're both going to have very sore bones. All right? You want to block with the fatty part of the arm, all right, the muscle part, which means you have to turn your hand so that the contact with the opponent is the big muscly part underneath the forearm. All right? So it's the muscle against the muscle. And that turning of the hand is what turns the spiral all the way from about here on up. The legs and the qua do this part, and then turning the hand does the upper part, or encourages the upper part. Yeah, Kevin.
Another thing, if you watch Sifu, his head stays straight forward because that's where your opponent is.
Yeah. Don't forget your opponent is right in front of you here. That's why you're going like this, because he's also going like that, right? You're using your right hand. Which one is he? He's using his right hand too, but you meet in the middle. Don't do this. Watch. This is incorrect. He's over here. Don't take your eye off the ball. All right? Keep your eye on the ball at all times. There's another reason to keep your eye on the ball, and it's actually the same reason. Where your eyes go, your mind goes. Where your mind goes, your chi goes. So if you're not being aware and you just go like this, your chi's over here now, but your opponent's in front of you. All right? So, all right, keep your eyes on the ball. Another way to say it is keep your mind on your opponent. There's one final aspect of this I should mention, and that you will really get when you practice this slowly and correctly with the full spiral in there. And that is, the full spiral engages your body mechanics in the right way. It's not it's not icing on the cake. It is the cake. All right, watch. The whole body. Watch. I'm searching for language and not finding it. Maybe I'll say it in French. Right? Watch. Wind up. Unwind. Wind up. Unwind. Wind up. Unwind. So there's a direct connection between your daimai and your hands. Right? The daimai moving and your hand moving is the same movement. Right? The daimai and the hand, watch. Spiral. Spiral. You can feel it all the way from the bottom of my left foot. Right? It's the same as. Does that make sense? Qua, hand. Questions? Okay, as always, these principles that we just talked about apply to every single movement. So eventually we won't have to even talk about them anymore because you'll just apply them yourselves without even thinking about it. Okay, guys, have yourselves a great Tuesday. We'll see you tomorrow. Ciao.